Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. All right, it's Wednesday morning, and this is Gareth Cliff Show on cliffcentral.com. Here we are, ready to take you away. Let's get cracking. We got lots to do this morning. We got lots of interesting things happening. I'm kind of sitting here nervous, waiting because they said, "You're going to get load shedding at 6 a.m." So I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, mine's coming. Apparently, Simphiwe Petros, who's going to be joining us in just a moment or two, well, probably about half an hour, he's got load shedding until then. So yesterday was the first day that we've, as a country, experienced level 6. I think that's the highest level we've gone to so far. So, we just got out of coronavirus levels. Now we're in Eskom load shedding levels again. And not good ones. Not good ones at all.
I have a question.
My co-host for this morning, hang on, let me just turn up the sound here on you. Simphiwe Petros, who's in the studio in Johannesburg. As I said, Simphiwe Petros joining us later on. So it's the Simphiwe and Simphiwe show. What did you say?
I have a question. Like, why do we have these stages in even numbers? Like, it's level 2, stage 2,
Yeah.
stage 4, stage 6. What happened to stage?
I think they pull it out of their. They pull it right out of their asses. I mean, it's made up by the rectum. That's what this stuff is. It is not. I can't take any of it seriously. The fact that we're going through level 6 is apparently more to do with the strike by workers at Eskom than anything else. So it's not even. This isn't necessarily the usual infrastructure, power generation, kusile medupi, all of that shit. That's the usual stuff, which would be levels 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. And now we've just skipped right to level 6, which means we're so properly screwed. So I suppose we just got to grin and bear it. That's what happens, right? And now we're dealing with level 6. So
like the worst.
If you're wondering, right? If you're wondering why, why the lights go off for like 4 hours. Last night it was 4 hours at a time. So I was sitting here. Now, obviously, like a lot of people in South Africa, you could sit and feel sorry for yourself. But I actually thought, I'm not going to feel bad about this. So I got into my car and went to gym and used up an hour and a half of that. So I used that productively. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to use this as a negative motivation to get something good done. So I went to the gym, and then they had power, so it was all good. Had a nice shower there because I'd packed a bag with stuff, and got home feeling a little bit fresh, still in the dark. Then I waited an extra hour and a bit, and then the power came back on, and I made myself some supper last night. But so I've got the backup here for the studio, but nothing else in the house works. So I was walking around with my phone as a torch, like all of us do, right? You must have done this as well yesterday.
It's the best day to get that light. You're just like, whoa.
You're like trying to find your way. And then I stood right in one of the turds that my puppy had put down on the carpet in my fucking dining room. And I was like, when you just feel it under your foot, you're like, squelch. You're like, shit.
Is it still like kind of slimy? You're just like, what is this? No.
I know. And then then begins the horrible work of like trying to clean that up, because now you've squelched it into the carpet, and it's just so gross. I was like, thank you very much. This is what I really need. I was really trying to make the best of a bad situation, and then it just got smelly and horrible. So all these, I want to see what happens. These motivational speakers, these people who like charge money to tell you how to live your life better, and they get up on stage and like, you got to find the power inside you, and you can make a difference. The world is. I want to see those fuckers when they stand in like a dog shit.
Well, you have the ability to change your situation, Gareth. I think that's how they'll always treat it. The power is within you. You need to believe that you can do it. And once you change your mindset, you will never, ever do that mistake again. And if you do, you won't be as harsh on yourself, because we all make mistakes. And that's just how life goes. Gareth, I think I found my next side hustle.
I think you've just talked yourself into a new job. I mean, you don't need this anymore, this waking up early shit. You just start that motivational stuff. And you know what the best part is? These days, You don't even have to fill a room of people. You just do it online and charge them, and you charge them less than everybody else, and they'll pay. So
Yes.
I just do want to quickly refer to this Eskom thing, because I put up what I feel a lot of South Africans are feeling at the moment on Instagram. I don't go much on the other social media anymore, but that was one where I thought, okay, let's see what this. And people just it got thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of like shares and likes and all the rest of it. So I basically said, listen, this is all brought to you by this useless government of ours. They have, and this is not news, obviously. So this wasn't a breakthrough thing. But here's the problem I have is, like, all these people who work at Eskom, they've been doing a shit job for the last 14, 15 years. Now they want more money to keep doing a shit job, right? There's my load shedding. See that? Just in time. So they want to keep doing. They want to keep doing a shit job, and they want to charge us for the privilege of using less of their power. Oh God, am I back now?
Got you. Yes.
Okay. All right. So they want us to use less of their product. They want to charge us more for it. They want to demand higher salaries for themselves for doing a less good job. And they think this is going to work out well for them. All that it's going to make people do is those who can afford it will get battery backup, solar backup. They will get off the grid if they can afford to. I just think it is absolutely criminal. We must stop giving Eskom our money, any of our money. I'm going to do whatever it takes now. I've decided. I got so angry yesterday afternoon. I was like, you know what? I don't care if it costs me and I end up in debt, more debt, just to pay off putting in an off-the-grid system here. It's going to cost me like a lot of money, but I'm going to do it, because then I don't give these motherfuckers a single cent more. And we'll see how they manage, because they will not survive if a lot of people in this country who pay remember, a lot of people don't pay their electricity. That's the situation in some parts of the country. So those people aren't paying anyway. So they'll carry on using Eskom because they probably don't have an option. They're not paying always because they don't want to. They sometimes just because they can't. And those who can afford to get off the grid will get off the grid, and they will never, ever give Eskom their money again. And that makes me happy. So I think we've got to do that. And we've also, and I really believe this, there's got to be a way. Someone suggested it on the show last week. They were like, why can't we give someone like Alta, Wayne Duvenage, why can't we give him our tax money and put it into a trust account? And then someone like Wayne can administer that. And government do not get their hands on it unless they're doing their job properly. That would be the way to handle this, because you take away their money, then suddenly they'll feel it. Then it'll matter. Then it'll make a difference. Yes. That's what I think.
And I think I think what's also frustrating is that we're in these various stages of load shedding, and you're still paying, if not more, electricity than you would have. It's like, I don't have power for 4 hours, and yet I'm still paying more electricity. Like, how? Swear, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if I was saving how much money I was using for electricity because of load shedding, maybe we could give them that. Maybe. But the fact that you're spending, if not more, make it make sense.
They should give you they should make a deduction. They should be like, okay, well, we'll charge you 20% less this month because you've been load shed like 25 times or whatever.
Oh, no, never that. Government and discount. What?
Someone said to me the other day, what is the greatest scam that you've learned to live with? And it is tax, because you think about it, right? First thing is, before your company even pays you, they get taxed. Then you get taxed. Then when you buy things, you get taxed again. Now, this is with the little bit of money that's left after you've been taxed already. Then you get taxed again. Then if you happen to be clever enough to put your money in a place where it grows, you get another kind of tax. And when you die, they tax you again. You're like, hang on a second. You don't get to tax this money again and again and again and again. You've already taken your share right at the beginning when it was the most. And as it gets less and less and less, you take some more of each of those. You know what?
I read a tweet that said, tax is the subscription you pay for living in that country. And I was just like, spot on.
Yeah.
Like, tax, I
That's
don't
it.
understand why we have to pay tax on everything. Even if you think you're not paying tax, best believe you are paying tax. So you buy your groceries, like
Mhm.
a whole lot of that money is going to government. And you're like, but why?
Right.
And I think because they get so much of it, and you're like, but the state of the country, it doesn't make sense where we're at economically. And yet you guys are living your best
Mhm.
lives and have the most expensive cars, throwing parties every other
Right.
weekend.
And that's not, and I know we're complaining here, but this is how a lot of people are feeling, especially when you touch, them on their wallets and they suddenly realize, like, whoa, hang on a second, we don't have any money. So there's all of that tax, which is obvious tax, and then there are those hidden ones. It's like, okay, well, we're going to put up the price of electricity, we're going to put up the price of petrol, we're going to put up the price of e-tolls, we're going to put up the price of all the other stuff that you have to encounter on a daily basis, and that they're putting up those prices too. So it's not even, I reckon, if you actually worked out like how much of every rand you really get to keep, 100 cents, you probably get to keep maybe 20 to 35 cents out of every rand you work for, which is absolutely outrageous. I mean, who wants to work, if they're 12 months in the year, who wants to work 9 out of 12 months for the government? Not me. Do you? Hell no.
No.
So what we've all got to
at all.
do, we've got to find ways we've got to screw them out of every last cent we can. You've got to find ways of dodging and of avoiding and trying your best not to give every honest cent that you earn to these cretinous, thieving bastards, because they're just not going to help anybody. Anyway, I mean, like, this is kind of obvious stuff for people, and I don't want to like complain about it too much because it's just boring after a couple of sentences. But you know what the problem is, right? Yes. Steve says, but Gareth, you would still have to pay network service fees, etc., even if you don't use Eskom. Really? So even if you get off the grid completely, you still have to pay them something? Really?
How?
I thought, I mean, like, for what? Surely if you take your house and you get completely off the grid, you're not even putting money back into the grid like a lot of people say they can. Then how? I mean, you just disconnect Eskom. You don't need them anymore. You're off the grid, so to speak. Isn't that right? I mean,
would the services be your water bill? Would that be something?
Yeah, but that's different. That's the municipal water bill, and I mean that. A lot of people also, they like, well, I'm gonna drill a borehole, and in some places you can, in some places you can't. But there are ways around that too, I'm sure. Oh. Anyway,
so
the average rule of thumb is that you get to keep just over a quarter, says Derek, of all the money that you make. That's crazy. A quarter. Yes.
That's nothing.
Right?
It's not even half. You think you're making money, but you're making money for somebody else. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chris says, good morning, Gareth, and good morning, Simusa. That's they're calling you now this morning. It was a SIM card the other day, now it's Simusa. It's great. All right, and today we got two Simphiwes on the show. So we'll get, here he comes. Simphiwe Petros has just joined us. So he's obviously just come out of his load shedding. Hey, Simphiwe, how are you?
Well, good morning. I'm good, thanks, and you?
Good, man. What's happening, man? I haven't seen you in a little while.
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm good. Just enjoying my time on holiday. I think the last time we spoke, I just told you that I started teaching. And I've been running a leadership academy. So that's what I've been busy with. I'm on holidays now. It was an interesting time during the term with exams and all of that. And yeah, since we last spoke, the Leadership Academy has been moving forward. So it's been exciting to see the growth and where we're going. Yeah.
You know what I love about you is you've always got more than one plate spinning at the same time. You're not just, I mean, teaching is hard enough. It's a full-time job. You've got a very big responsibility. You have lots of things you have to think about every day. And look, teaching, you get those holidays, which I think are a major, major plus. But typical of you, you don't spend your off time just sitting around doing nothing. You've also started this Leadership Academy. It's very cool. One of my other friends is a school teacher too. And I do get jealous of her holidays, that I'll say. Because there's like, how many do you get in a year? And how long are they?
It's about 4. but the June holidays are the
Mm.
best because at least they're 3 weeks long, and then December, of course, is about like 4 to 6 weeks. Just depends when you finish with exams.
Listen to
Yeah,
that.
so yeah, no, it's worthwhile at the end of the day. It's worthwhile.
Jesus. What do you
Yeah.
teach them? What are you a specific teacher, or do you teach a whole lot of subjects? Are you specific to one
So
subject or many?
So because of my engineering background, I started off teaching them science, but now I'm teaching maths
Hmm.
actually, and I think I'm enjoying the maths a lot more.
Huh,
Uh, it comes more
yeah,
natural to me, of course. Yeah, yeah, and I'm
that's
teaching
very
different
cool.
grades, so I'm teaching grade 8s all the way to grade 11s at the moment,
Oh,
and it's maths, like advanced maths, and then math literacy as well at grade 11 level.
Now I know we need
sure.
maths teachers and we need lots of people to be qualified in maths, but we actually also need some engineers. Can't you go and take over Eskom?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I'm not sure about that one. I have been thinking about getting back in the engineering space, but it's a question of like passion and purpose for me. I could do it
Mm,
because I'm competent and I have the ability, but I don't think I would enjoy it. And that's my my big takeaway from it all. The enjoyability factor is quite important to me. So I'm enjoying where I'm at right now. I don't think I'll be teaching forever. Um, but yeah, at this stage of my life, I'm enjoying where I'm at. Who knows what will be in the next 3 years?
yeah, I think that's a you know what, you got to keep your options open, and there are so many cool things that you could do these days. You don't have to do just one thing. I always say to people, imagine living in your grandparents' generation or even your parents' generation to a degree, where they had one career, they had one job, and they did that their whole life. And then when they retired from that job, then they got a, like, you know, got a bonus, or they got a little gift from the company. I mean, this used to be the way it worked in any industry. You'd be like, okay, I'm going to retire at like, and they retired early. Hey, they retired at like 55, 60, maybe 65 at
Yeah.
a push. And then you finish. Then what do you? You're meant to sit at home and you have a pension and you do nothing because they say you're too old to work, which is nonsense. Because I know some people who are way older than 65 and they are still
Mm.
way sharper than some 20-year-olds I know. So, I mean, it's crazy how that's changed. And now you can really do 3 or 4 careers at the same time. You can be studying while you're working. You can have a little side hustle like you've got with this leadership academy. You could have your own YouTube channel. You could be doing a bunch of stuff while you are in your supposed career. It's cool.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and I think it's quite important that we leverage that in these times.
Mm,
Because I don't think we're one-dimensional people, and we don't need to stick to a certain label. I think we owe it to ourselves to pursue what those things that we're passionate about, to pursue the things that you've always wondered
right.
if you'd ever be good at or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that you still wish that you had done that you think you may be too late to do now? Because I know that you guys are both really young, but I mean, there's some things that you can't, like, once you've gone past the varsity stage and you've studied,
Mm.
it's really hard to go back and do that again. I thought about it at the beginning of this year. I was like, well, I could go and do a degree in whatever, something I'm really interested in. And then I sat down and I thought about this for a while. I was like, first of all, I don't see the point. Like, I'm not going to use a degree. It would be purely for my own, like, edification. And frankly, you can learn by just going on the internet and watching the most intelligent people in that subject talking about their subject. I mean, I know a lot of people say, "What, you got to have the certificate, you got to have the degree," but I don't think you do. Not if you're going to just do it to improve your knowledge. What's the point of having a master's degree in, you know, political science, for example, which is such a stupid
Mm.
subject? I mean, that's what I studied. What's the point of having a master's in that? What? Someone's going to go, oh, well, let's call Gareth in on this election issue because he's got a master's in political science. No one's ever done that. They're like, man on the street, what do you think of this? I think that this party says this and does that. Therefore, I'm going to vote this way. Oh, you don't need a master's degree in anything to do that, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think there's a lot of skills nowadays that you really can learn online, whether it's on Udemy or whatever
Sure.
online platform you want to learn from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I try and live life without regrets because I would rather try and fail in something. So I don't think I've got any regrets when it comes to, is there anything that I should have done in the past that I haven't done in the past? Hey man, who knows? Maybe I could have like pursued medicine instead of engineering, but I'll never go back because I know the trauma of varsity. And I did my time, eh? I did my time and I'm okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was about to say
I
that.
don't have any regrets about that stuff. Like, I think I would have made a shit doctor because I don't like people. And in any case, I don't think my marks were good enough to have done medicine. I would have made a terrible lawyer, studied law, a terrible lawyer. So I'm very glad I didn't end up doing that. If I think back, I don't really regret any of those decisions. And also, if you go back to varsity now, why would you pay to have an unnecessary degree? I mean, it's like purely so you can tell people that you've got a degree in something. And who do I want to impress? Screw that. I'd rather keep, and it's expensive. Hey, go to varsity now. It's like a couple of thousand, tens of thousands of rands a year, if not 100,000 rand a year, to do some degrees so you can impress people and say, "Oh, I've got a doctorate in philosophy." Please, for what?
And then you've got that student loan you've got to pay afterwards,
Right.
Yeah, that they can't write off. I think
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
But to your question, Gareth, because I was actually giving this a thought, and I was like, in 2022, we actually live in a time where you can actually go back to school online and do everything online. And it's like, oh, this typical varsity experience. I don't need to go back and live those days again. I don't need to be a struggling student who's living off 50 rand. Like those days are done. I'm not about it.
Yeah.
Like it happened when I was in my early 20s. Now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, cool. I'd like to get maybe a short course or do a short course in something. And yeah, like that I think is the best way to approach things now. Like that's the only way, online course, and then you still get to keep your job.
I couldn't agree more. And how great is that? Because you can be a real working person at the same time as you're doing, something to improve your mind. But really, whether you read books, whether you go on the internet, whether you do an online course, if that's what you need, it's really just about certification. You just want to be able to show other people that you actually did study this. Which is kind of stupid because unless you need it for a job, like let's say you're an engineer, you need to have that qualification if you're going to build something, if you're going to create something in the real world. And if you're going to be a doctor, I'd prefer if you had a qualification. You don't tell me, oh, I learned how to do this heart surgery by going on YouTube. Anyway, a couple of comments. Yeah.
When there's a TikTok, someone's like, they went for a job interview and they're like, yeah, I'm a doctor, I'm a qualified doctor, and they got the job. And then like all that, like first day of the job, they like Googling, so what is a artery? Because everyone just do.
I wouldn't be surprised. South Africa is one of those countries where wasn't there a guy who was arrested here like 2-3 years ago because he was pretending to be an airline pilot and he wasn't qualified at all. He was flying. Now listen, if I'm going to get on a plane, you better have some papers to prove that you could fly that plane. That would make me extremely
100%.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing you can study online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I want to know your hours sometimes. I want to be like, can we trust you? Like, are we in good hands? And I think even when they like, hello, this is your captain, I'm just like, okay, dude, like just tell me we're gonna make it okay. Like, don't talk too much. Stop putting on this voice of yours. Just be like, we're about to go, and then we're gonna land. I'm a bit pedantic on that one.
Yeah, I want to actually play you something that someone sent me the other day of TikTok. Believe it or not, I'm still not on TikTok, much to Simphiwe's consternation, Simphiwe Petros, because she can't believe, like, she's on TikTok, she understands how that works, she's on there all the time. Let me just play this for you quickly because this guy made a lot of sense. He comes off of TikTok, and I don't know who he is. He's also a professor of some kind, but he's the kind of cool professor that you wish you had at varsity. And he makes a really good point about this qualification thing, which I thought, you know what? This guy should be put in charge of all of this because he seems to know how to deal with this. So it says what his qualification is, but listen to what he reckons the one place is in the world we could do with more qualifications.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night with like an idea that just, boom, hits you in the head? Middle of the night last night, I woke up and I started thinking, plumbers need a license, electricians need a license. In fact, nearly everybody that does anything in any industry that serves our society needs a license. Why? So that we know they're properly trained, and we know that if they screw up, there's something we can do about it. So I'm starting a movement, and I hope you all join. Politicians need to be licensed. So here's what I'm going to say. You want to be a politician? You got to get a degree in politics or economics or something that does any good besides acting. You want to be a politician? You got to take a test. Just like the rest of us to get licensed. You got to take a test. And you got to pass the test. And then you have to indemnify yourself with insurance. So when you screw up our lives by doubling the price of our gas and tripling the price of food and other commodities, we can sue your ass and get the money we need to pay for the stuff that you're making us pay more for. And that's my idea of the day.
Down. You're an engineer, you build something that falls down, then you get sued as in your personal capacity, and the firm that you work for, engineering firm, gets sued. There was famously that story about that Greyston Bridge. Remember when that fell down?
Yeah.
And the company that built, they had to pay hundreds of millions of rands in damages. They were personally liable for it. You know, there were probably some engineers who were fired over that. Like, there are consequences. The only industry, in inverted commas, where they seem to just have no accountability is the politicians. That's Dr. Sam Goldstein, who's a neuropsychologist. And he's right. Like, it's not so much a qualification as it is a license. You have to be licensed to practice politics. And at this stage, like he says, the only thing that seems to qualify you is acting. You just have to pretend you care about people and pretend that you know what you're doing, and you get into that role. And yet we give those people the most important jobs, like running the country. You know?
Yeah, it's actually quite scary. It
is.
You have to be a great actor and a great speaker. If you can pull a crowd and speak very well and speak at the people's level, then you've won them over. You can promise them the world but never deliver on anything. And I think that's the problem with politics. There's a lack of leadership in politics, and that's what bothers me, because leadership is action and service. But a lot of the time in our country, it's a lot of lip service more than anything.
Right. Well, Ruth
and
says,
even that lip
especially in this
service is
country,
not that great.
they're not even good at that.
Nah.
Ruth says, indeed. But in this country, they would buy their license. Like people buy their driver's licenses. They would. Can you imagine?
That's
listen to this. Sean says, the company I used to work for decided they will only employ someone with a degree 4 years ago. What a fuck up. Then they went back to employing someone with skill. Now, that's an important distinction. Like, we attach way too much importance to degrees in South Africa. Yeah, that's why there's always such a feeding frenzy when people are lining up to get into universities in South Africa, because they think once they've got that degree, they're guaranteed to get a job. What we really need are skills. And skills are not things that you learn in a university. Skills are very often things you learn on the job. I mean, like Simphiwe and Petros can do a bunch of things that people who have qualified with some media degree from a university or from one of these colleges that they're popping up all over the place, they could never do. She gets on the trot daily experience, which I reckon would be worth way more, not just to us as her current employer, right, Simphiwe, but also you could go and use those skills in the marketplace in ways that someone who's got a piece of paper can never, ever do.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these organizations, what they get wrong is that they focus solely on the qualification. And the reality is that if you have the right type of person in your team, they will be able to learn on the job. And that's what you want more than anything. You want the right kind of people in your organization who have the attitude and desire to want to learn, because you can also get a degree and it be useless in, 2020. COVID has happened, lockdown has happened, things have changed. So what you've learned in varsity 4, 5, 10 years ago, doesn't mean that you can apply it in this current workspace. So that's the one thing that a lot of organizations just need to adapt to and understand, that times have changed, man, and you really just want someone who's eager to learn and can actually do the job as they're learning.
Well, we've got a bunch of things to get to in the next half hour. It's already 6:30. So let's take a look at some headlines quickly, just so we know what's going on in the world, because you don't want to be caught in a conversation with somebody and they're like, ooh, hang on a second. You don't know about that? You must be ignorant. You must be ignorant. So the public protector has been ordered to pay 1.5 million to an official who was dismissed for calling a probe into Mkhwebane. This just keeps going on. I don't know how this Busisiwe Mkhwebane keeps her job, because she is definitely one of the most useless people we've ever had in any position in South Africa. So the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration, which is a labor commission, the CCMA, ruled against the public protector in a case regarding the dismissal of the former Free State provincial head, Sphelo Hamilton Samuel. The CCMA ordered the Chapter 9 institution reinstate this guy Samuel and pay back the official amount of 1.5 million rand. Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane dismissed the guy after he wrote to Parliament in 2020 requesting an investigation into her conduct. So she does something wrong. He reports her to Parliament. She goes, fine, I'm going to fire you. And then he has to take her to the CCMA, and that's cost him some time and money. And he gets 1.5 million out at the end, which I suppose is better than nothing. I mean, it's probably not going to make up for the months and months and months that he's been unemployed. But she maintains her job. She's got to go. Busisiwe Mkhwebane has got to go.
Yeah, that's tough, I have to say. Like, I hope they just compensated them for all those months they were unemployed, because that's ridiculous. Like, I'm guessing that 1.5 million lives up to that, because, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, it is ridiculous. You know what else is ridiculous? And we've spoken about this already this morning, is Eskom. But the Eskom unions, the unions that provide most of the workers at Eskom and Eskom itself, have reached an agreement, according to Pravin Gordhan, who's probably one of the most useless people also. You think Busisiwe Mkhwebane, we could get rid of Pravin Gordhan as well. He said the intimidation by striking workers had seen the country plunged into darkness and saw the property of managers and utility destroyed. Yes, Pravin, and you should have been seeing to this a long time ago. Anyway, he's the Public Enterprises Minister. He said they finally managed to reach an agreement. So I don't know what this means. Does that mean that the workers are going to get whatever they want, despite being really shitty at their jobs? Or does it mean that we're just going to have to pay them more as taxpayers? Because I suspect it's the latter. I suspect it's just more money out of our pockets to sort this problem out. Right?
But also, does this mean stage 6 is going to come to an end very soon? Or does that continue?
You would hope so. Eskom announced stage 6 early yesterday afternoon, saying it was battling with capacity. Pravin said that the intimidation by striking workers had seen the country plunged into darkness. The intimidation is completely unacceptable and is primarily responsible for the country being where it is today and possibly tomorrow. But he said the situation should return to normal soon. Normal being like levels underneath 6.
Stage 4. Stage 4.
At this stage, I'm sure they're going to be creating more stages. I'm sure we're going to get to stage 13 and 15. Remember that time on Twitter when they were creating a hashtag stage 11 is when the candles don't even turn on. Stage 21 is this. I think we're going to get
to that. So funny. Exactly. Oh my God. Do you also have candles all over your house just in case?
Yeah.
Yes.
On standby always.
My
granny's a bit old school.
Yeah.
Yes. So she's old school. So we have, I bought like those lights that you can charge, battery lights. She's like, no, I don't want to use that. I want a candle. And so we have like 4 or 5 different candles on the dining room table in her room, because she's just like, no, the only thing I trust is candle. Is a candle. And so
well she's right, because so a lot of people yesterday would have thought, well, don't worry, you know, if I've got a backup or I've got a phone charger or whatever, that'll last. But then it's suddenly 4 hours instead of 2, and it doesn't last. So your gran is right. Like the candle, Eskom can't fuck that up. At least you can still use your candle, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, at least we hope so. Yes.
Anyway, so according to the Minister of Public Enterprises, the execrable Pravin Gordhan, we will be going back to normal, as in normal amounts of load shedding from today. That would be good. So I don't know if that's something to look forward to, if you're relieved, or if you just had enough.
You know what?
And then,
You know,
yeah, what did you want to say?
yeah, you know what I miss? I miss Jacob Zuma in 2016 when he used to say, "There will never, 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 ever be load shedding again in South Africa."
Yeah.
I wish we could go back to 2016 and live in that, Like, I'm just thinking. Yes.
and at least he did it like, I'm on it, Meanwhile, I mean, he was giving the Guptas like billions for their coal.
Yeah.
But
He
at
was
least
having
it
a great
working.
time, he gave us hope at least, even though it was a lie, he gave us
Right.
hope.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, you know what? I don't want hope anymore. I just want fucking electricity.
Yeah, same here.
At this point, I'm starting to think we must just all have like a big fire, like they used to have in those steam trains and those steamships that they used to cross the Atlantic with. You just have a huge big oven and you just put coal in there. You do your own. Basically, you have your own coal power station in your house, and you just use that to heat the water, to turn a wheel that creates electricity. Come on, Simphiwe, create some kind of thing. You're an engineer. Make some kind of thing where we can all just throw coal. We can throw coal into a stove and it heats the house and it looks after us during winter.
You know what's scary though is that we're running out of coal. So that's only like a temporary solution because Eskom needs to develop solutions that aren't dependent on coal. Because coal is running out. So maybe solar energy.
I don't know if this
Solar is expensive.
Do you think this is a compliment? Do you think this is a compliment or an insult to Simphiwe Petros? But Amir says Simphiwe looks like Duduzane Zuma.
This is not the first time I hear this.
I can't answer it now. I never saw it.
Yeah, me too.
But now,
right.
now I can't answer it. You should have just been like, dude, come on. You need to use that.
No. I get this all the time though. It's the weirdest thing. Like on TikTok, people are saying that I look like something Soweto or Sun El musician. I'm like, but I don't see it. Like, it makes no sense to me.
I don't see the
Soweto.
But Duduzane Zuma, I see it now. I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
You just need to be a bit more arrogant and got it.
But if it's just the looks, that's not an insult because I think he's regarded by lots of women in particular as being a good-looking man. The fact that he's a complete leech and a parasite, and that he's got this slimy personality, that's besides the point. But if someone says you look like him, take the compliment. I would say that's an okay compliment. So somebody asked here, have you guys spoken about that horrible situation at the Enyobeni Tavern in East London? 21 children that died. Woody wants to know. Well, we did talk about it on the show yesterday, but there's actually an update. Apparently, the tavern owner has been criminally charged. Vuyokazi Ndevu could be arrested after the Eastern Cape's Liquor Board's decision to open criminal charges against her. The board said Ndevu broke the Liquor Law Act by selling alcohol to teens and allowing them into her tavern. She has apologized and said she wasn't at the tavern at the time of the incident. Authorities are investigating what could have led to the deaths of the 21 teens, because that still seems like it could be a bit of a mystery.
Know.
But no, they don't know. Why are you smiling? What do you think it is?
No, so like some of the international reporters have said that there was gas thrown in. There were the people were in a room, door got open, and someone like threw like a can of gas in there, and that's what actually caused their death. And it's interesting that the local reporters haven't even said anything that could even help with what happened. They keep saying, wow, we don't know the details of what happened. We don't know what exactly happened. And yeah, you have, I think it was Becky who said, yeah, we can say that it was not of natural causes. No duh, Sherlock. So it's so interesting that we as the actual locals don't know what's happening, but there are articles out there saying that,
International
hey,
reporters.
yes. So
You know what I would appreciate though? Like, I wish they would just say, we don't want to tell you what happened because we're going to lose our jobs, for example, because they definitely know what happened. They know the story better than anybody else. But yeah.
I feel it's just so sad that these people who are so young, 13, 14-year-olds in some cases, who've lost their lives in a situation where you just see like the parents didn't give a shit. The tavern owner didn't give a shit. And now obviously they'll blame this person who owns the tavern. And that's part of it. Of course, she has to bear some responsibility because you're not allowed to sell, liquor to minors. You're not allowed to have them in an establishment like that underage. But there are also probably a whole lot of other people because there will be cops that were bribed. There were, the parents themselves will probably get off scot-free. They'll be crying on the news. And then 3 weeks later, no one's going to be knocking on their door saying, hey, what kind of a parent are you? Which is a good point to make. Anyway, Congo Chris says, every day we have load shedding. We should throw an ANC minister into the furnace. They're an abundant resource and they're filled with enough hot gas to keep the turbines going. That's it. It's getting, but guys, it's getting to this point, right? Like, the three of us have jobs. We have work. We have something to wake up in the morning for. And even though it costs us more and more to travel around and to do the things that we want to do, we still have a reason to get on with our day. You know how many young people in this country have never had that reason? They wake up in the morning, they've got nothing, and they've been promised the world by these politicians. Can you imagine how angry they are? Just for a minute, think about that, because we are still laughing and we're like making jokes about Eskom. There are a bunch of people in this country who are this close. They've had it up to here. They are ready to throw politicians into furnaces, and it won't be a funny situation for those politicians. If I were in politics right now, especially in the ANC, I'd be very, very nervous because there's going to be a lynch mob coming to your house soon if you're a politician. People are full.
It's like the story you told Gareth the other day about the politician who died in a pothole or car accident. Can't remember. And there was no sympathy whatsoever. People were just like, "Oh, you deserve this." We live this every day. So. And I think that's where a lot of people are at. They're not going to feel any sympathy that happens to the ministers, the politicians anytime soon. They're just like, not today, Satan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think.
Well,
and I think at our. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Ahead.
I think at our stage, we're in a privileged position, but we're also frustrated and hurtful because of the fact that we have family members that are young and unemployed.
Sure.
I mean,
absolutely,
that's the difficult thing. It's a real thing for all of us.
And and this black tax, which is already so unfair because, I mean, it's not unique to the world. Usually people support their families, even if, only 2 people in the family have jobs or whatever. In this country, that's the case for many families. So there's someone who's successful. They then have to, not only all those taxes we were talking about before you came on, Simphiwe Petros, Simphiwe and I were talking about, like all the, eventually you get to keep maybe a quarter of what you have. Now, for many families in this country, they don't even get to keep that because they have to then share that with all the other members of the family who aren't employed, who also need to eat and live and have clothing and be able to put their kids into school and all of that stuff. So everybody's stretched to the absolute brink of breaking. And I reckon it's not going to last long, hey? It's very scary. That's something that I lie in bed worrying about every night. Because then at that point where those people decide they've had enough, things are going to get very, very messy very quickly.
Yeah, I see Amir commented saying July is coming up, and it takes me back to July last year, and what a wild time in South Africa it was. Like, people get frustrated. People are on a knife's edge. Anything can go wrong at any moment, and that's quite a scary thought, Tim.
Well, let's turn our attention to slightly happier things, because I reckon that we've got to talk about stuff that makes us a bit happier rather than stuff that makes us more frustrated and sad. Well, it's bad enough to sit in the dark and sit in the cold, but now we've got to look for things that can just lift our spirits a little bit. So apparently, I mean, this is quite funny, but when you're stressed, your IQ can decrease by as much as 13%. So you got to Wusa. Breathe, chill out, calm down. There are some things you can do something about. There are some things you can't do anything about. As Dr. Hanan says, you've only got a certain number of coins in a day. If you're going to spend all 100 coins worrying about stuff you can't change, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. Now they've actually proven that your IQ decreases when you're stressed. So there's no point in being stressed. Take a big deep breath, relax yourself, calm down, sit, think about the positive stuff that's going on in your life. Take stock of how lucky you are to be alive and to be healthy. If you are a healthy person, if you're not, you can do something about that in many circumstances. But get rid of some of that stress, because stressing yourself out, especially about the stuff you can't control, it's not only going to make you more susceptible to disease and all those things that we already know, but apparently it also makes you dumber.
And no one wants to interact with someone dumb.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes sense. I think I was just about to say, before you said about things we can't control, that a lot of the time we stress about the things we can't control. And it's actually quite ridiculous, because you can't control the outcome, but here you are sitting stressed about something that you don't know is going to work out or not. And it gets a bit ridiculous. So I agree completely. Like, we've got to focus on the fact that, I've got to take stock of where I'm at. I've got to look back and think, okay, I've been through a lot worse. Life has been a lot more stressful. I made it through that.
Right.
I'm going to get through this. And I'm grateful for life, That's how I deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing that helps is to not think that you're the only one that's suffering, because we often look at people who we think are better off than we are. We think, well, they're not as stressed as us. Can you imagine the stress of being the CEO of a major multinational corporation? Can you imagine the stress of being the person who has to fix Eskom, for example? I mean, what a disaster. Not that I have any sympathy for him, but that must be a really tough job. Imagine being the person who has to raise 5 kids. Imagine being the person who has to fight for your life in a court while you're being accused of like terrible crimes. I mean, everybody's got some shit going on in their life, I saw that Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years yesterday by a New York court. So there's something happening there finally, after all these months of like nobody really knowing what's going on. I want to see the cameras in that courtroom. I didn't want to see Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Hey, be some stories there.
Some seriously explicit stories, I'm sure. Yes.
But I mean, how do you cope with stress? What do you do I said you got to breathe. You got to think about the things that you are lucky to have. You got to think about the people you love, and that de-stresses me. It's not difficult. I like to tidy things up. I mean, that's part of the reason that I'm such a neat freak, is when things are organized around me, I feel much less stressed.
I think for me specifically, I've got to ground myself and anchor myself and just like have a correct and unbiased perspective, because a lot of the stress, like I said earlier, is focused on things I can't control. I want to have more money. My debt or my expenses are at a certain level, and it will frustrate you. So I've got to ground myself and anchor myself and think back that, remember that time you were broke? Remember that time you didn't have money? You actually have money right now. Yes, things may be stressful right now, but if you think back to last time or a couple of years back, life was a lot more stressful. So it's all about anchoring myself and giving myself the correct perspective. That always goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I would say it's this line that my grand always says to me: this too shall pass. It's also in the Bible, but she always says that. She's like, the bad times, the tough times, it shall pass, but also the good times. When you have the money and you're living your best life, just know it too shall pass.
It's not,
so,
it's temporary. Your grandmother is smart. Can we not have her running things? I mean, first of all, she's got a plan for Eskom. She's got the candles all over the place. She doesn't get stressed about things. This too shall pass. By the way, this too shall pass. That is such a powerful thing. If you've ever gone through a really, really hard time in your life, let's say things were just super awkward, difficult, complicated, There were so many things that were weighing on you, making you feel terrible about yourself and about everything, your relationships, your health, your career. If you've ever been through those times and someone has said something meaningful to you, this too shall pass is probably one of the best things anyone's ever said to me when I've been in those situations, because you don't realize it. You're like, oh God, this is the new way for my life to be. This is how it's always going to be. That's such a powerful thing. And I'm glad that it's in the Bible, but it's something that you have to remind yourself of. I've got a fridge magnet with this too shall pass on it. And it's useful to keep that in mind.
I've realized actually a lot of the times when somebody's trying to like help me de-stress, I don't really need somebody to tell me that I should do this or should do that. Sometimes somebody just saying me too just gives me a lot of relief, because I realize, okay, we're actually all going through the most, and this is okay. This is part of life. I'm not going crazy. I'm not the only one going through this. Yeah.
Well,
Giving you
somebody
the
here in the
space to
comments says, lovely lady Lee says, nothing that a glass of wine can't fix. And Siabonga says, Gareth, is that a drink you're pouring? I said have a drink, but late in the day, not 6 a.m. No, this is just coffee, I promise. Let me show you. Can you see it there? Maybe there's coffee,
There we
right?
go.
There's nothing but coffee in there. I promise. I'm not puzaing first thing in the morning on a Wednesday. Can you imagine? Although I think to be, if we're going to take this seriously instead of just make fun of it, like South Africans do deal with stress by drinking. We have a major drinking culture. And if you think about people who work in really tough environments, like in underground mining, kind of thing, they wait for the end of the week and they drink because that's the only way they can make it through another week. They're like, I need to de-stress. This is my way of de-stressing, is to just get blind drunk and to fall down. And then after that, I can pick myself up and start again, because that is a really hard business to be in. Hey, that's underground. It's hot. You can't breathe. There are hundreds of you in like tunnels. It's unsafe. You're pulling stuff out of the earth. It's a really, really horrible job. And tell me that they don't deserve to drink at the end of that week, and I'll tell you that you're full of shit.
100%. I think there's people in corporate positions as well. Like I remember my times in like corporate, like my escape was going out and drinking on the weekend because the week was so stressful. It's not that I didn't have the competency to do my job. It's just that I hated it, like I was getting depressed at a stage. So I completely agree and understand that, like, it's tough. It's not necessarily the best coping mechanism, but it is a coping mechanism that sometimes leads to more regret. But hey, it's tough out here.
Yeah. Tivani says, Eskom cannot be fixed. There's no CEO in the world that can rescue us. Oh my God. All right. And Kawe says, Duduzane Zuma looks different. I think they're referring to you, Simphiwe Petros.
We're not going to hear the end of this, but shout out.
Oh, Gary says, Gareth, I cannot remember the last time you asked people to like and subscribe. You know what? I'm very bad at that. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and people always do it right up front, and they do it right at the end, and they do it in the middle. And it's so boring. I wish I could just skip through those things. But yeah, please do me a favor, like and subscribe, because these things, it does matter. The YouTube algorithm just does not give you any love if you don't do these things. So please, I'm going to ask you again, just do it. Like and subscribe. Then we don't have to ask you every other morning. It would be great. And also tell your friends, give us a good review if you listen to the podcasts. All of this stuff helps. I know it's a pain in the backside and you want to come. We don't charge you to listen to us. We don't charge a subscription fee. We never will. But if you can, the way you pay us back is just give us good reviews. Make sure that you spread the word, and we will be eternally grateful to you. Vincent says, here's some good advice. Go to the gym if you're stressed. If that doesn't work, go to the pub, grab a few drinks, and get drunk. Drunk people don't give a damn about stress. That's about right.
You're starting so well, Vince. You're on the right track. And then you're just like, oh, just get drunk.
If all else
Yeah.
fails, hey yo.
Just
Oh
drink.
my
It's
God.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
man.
Tabo says, it's not too late, Gareth. I liked and subscribed on my own. Yes, well, thank you, Tabo. That's why you have been a regular person in the comment section from the get-go. So we should start awarding gold stars to like the major, like the leaders of the comment section. What do you think, Simphiwe? Like we should have a
Sure.
board up on the back drop there behind you in the studio where we can put like people's names. Whoever's the biggest participant in the show. Yeah, exactly. We should have like, there's Congo Chris, and there's Ruth, and there's Cindy, and there's Tabo, and there's Siabonga, and all these people who are like commenting every day. And we should put them up on a board, and then we can determine who the biggest Cliff Central fan is. And then once a month we give like an actual award. Could be cash money. How about that? That'd be fun.
Yeah, and if you tell your friends to like and subscribe, it could be even a bigger prize. You see, now you have a reason to motivate.
Yeah.
Now you see,
Right.
now there's a reason for you to tell your people.
Yeah. End of the year, we give a really big prize to the biggest commenter, biggest subscriber, liker, most involved and engaged listener. We do that once a year. That would be quite a big deal. Now suddenly everybody, Nico, Robert, Steve, Carl, they're all coming out of the woodwork. They're like, me, because there's cash money up for grabs.
You see,
man.
that's how you
Cash
get
money
people
sounds
to do
good.
anything. You just give them a young incentive, and boom,
Exactly.
they'll do the work for you.
Exactly. Maybe we get, like Congo Chris says here, maybe we get Borge to give us a car to give someone. That would be a good fun thing to do. But
it's
really
going to be an EV, right?
But do you really want? Because I don't think he will. He'll give us an internal combustion engine car, and then you'll have to fill it with petrol, and you'll hate me because the petrol will cost you more than the car.
I was just about to say petrol is killing us. Yeah. So hey, that car becomes more of an expense than anything,
Yeah, guys, we were never ready for
but
that.
money sounds great. Let me just say, money always
right
wins.
now. Exactly. That's all anybody wants. Nobody's interested in any of the other stuff. Money or gold. How about that? Hey, we're back to the days of like, give me gold for my troubles. Oh man.
Yeah, that 100 rand is looking good. Like that. Yeah, I'll just give you an extra 100 rand. Thank you. I need it. Every rand counts.
Vincent says, sell the car and buy a horse and cart if that's the prize. We did speak about that yesterday. Oh, man. Okay, so here's an idea from Steve. He says, our top fans can have a braai with me at my house, and then you can even use the loo to take a shit. Yeah, well, then that's the last time you'll be invited to my house. But okay, if that's what you really want. If that's what that's what qualifies for a prize, sure. That doesn't cost me anything. We can do that.
I don't think you want to take a dump at Garrett's house. Have you not seen the pictures he has in his toilet? He's going to shock you and scare you. No.
And not only there's also Simphiwe, there's also a sign in that bathroom that says strictly no pooing, because you're not allowed to do a number 2 in my guest bathroom. What kind of monster does that? Go home, do that, and then come to my house. Jesus.
Yeah.
Really? Like, how long are you spending in my house that you need to shit into my house? Really, honestly.
Imagine the audacity. Like,
I know. How rude. How rude. All right. So we've got to take a break. It's 7:00. We've got Simphiwe.
Oh, Gareth was just saying we have to take a break. It is the Simphiwe and Simphiwe show. See you guys in a few.
This week on the Autotrader podcast.
Car manufacturers are trying to segment their vehicles into different parts of the market. Sometimes you can do that through a subsidiary. Sometimes you can do it through ownership of another manufacturer. There's different scenarios in which you can do this. And the main thing about this is, the main purpose is that you don't have to go and design 2 different products. Specifically, if you do own another car manufacturer.
Well, I mean, didn't Nissan and Datsun do that? Because they became one company. They became Nissan, right?
Yeah.
But for a while, they were manufacturing the Datsun
as 2 different vehicles. Yeah.
Two different,
Listen,
with the same with the same platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially,
and then Ford and Mazda did that too.
yes.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Yes, indeed. It is Wednesday morning. It's just after 7 o'clock. Did you just have the power go off there at the studio, Simphiwe?
Yes, as we were going into the break, and then during the break, it kind of went and came back and went and came back. So I don't know if it's load shedding, not load shedding.
I just want to say for anybody who's listening to us from anywhere else in the world, and we sometimes think, oh, well, this isn't relevant to people in the rest of the world, but they're getting serious kicks out of knowing that they live in a country where they don't have to deal with this. So I think a lot of people from all over other parts of the globe are listening to this show and going, oh, well, I don't have to deal with that shit. Like I've got friends who are living in London, in New York, in France, and Germany, and Japan, and we've got listeners all over the world. And I'm pretty sure that they're getting a bit of Schadenfreude by listening to us and going, oh, okay. So when Gareth started the show this morning, Simphiwe Petros had no electricity. Then he came on, and then Gareth's power went off, and then at 7 o'clock, Simphiwe and Simphiwe's power went off. And now two of us are sitting here, one on a generator, one on a UPS battery, and the only one who's got power now is you, Simphiwe Petros.
yeah, finally.
Oh my God.
And it's only for a few hours. It's only for a few hours. I want to lose power just now.
Yeah, it's like it's like we're all taking this blunt and we're all passing around the electricity. Hey, Gareth, your turn. Okay, and you have your puff, and then you go, it's your turn now.
It genuinely feels like that. Yo, my gosh.
Right, exactly. So this is seemingly a very big topic. A lot of people really do want to talk about this. Siyabonga says, you do not take a dump in anyone's house, period. I always ask people if it's necessary. Okay, so I'm so glad that we are onto this. I know it's very lavatorial. I know that some people think that this is quite a stupid thing for people to talk about, but I think it's massively important. So I'm with Siyabonga on this 100%. One. Like, you don't need to shit unless you've got a stomach bug and it comes on at a moment you didn't realize. Look, if you leave your house and you're like, ooh, I don't feel so good, and you're like, you hear that noise coming from your stomach, you go, oh, maybe I should stay at home, right? That's the best decision you can make, because otherwise you're going to have a very unpleasant time. Second of all, I suppose if it develops at the person's house, like let's say you've gone to a braai or a lunch party or something like that, or dinner, and you get to someone's house, and then you're suddenly like, ooh, hang on, I feel this stomach thing coming. Then that's fine. I think nobody's going to hold you responsible. But if you just arrive at someone's house and decide the first thing you're going to do is go to their bathroom and drop a number 2, that's just very rude, don't you think?
Yeah, it's like you're almost trying to make a statement, Like, I'm coming to take a shit at your place. I'm not coming to visit you. I needed to make sure that the toilet conditions are appropriate. I can go home now.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Oh wow.
It's just not acceptable. I would feel so bad. First of all, because you there's no amount of spray or opening of windows that you can do to hide that stuff. And and it's just gross. It's like even if you on the rare occasion I've had to very rarely at work use the loo, but some people just leave it in the most disgusting state of affairs, and we know this because Jane, like Jane has had some over the years. Jane has had some stories, and she does not hold back. She's like, this guy who's from downstairs, he came upstairs and used the loo. I mean, we used to have like private investigators basically sitting in the office watching who went in and out of the loo, so that we could figure out who was making the huge mess that poor Jane had to clean up. But it's amazing to me how some people just have no etiquette around the bathroom. Even at the gym, I'm sure you've seen this too, Simphiwe. Like, there's some guys who they will shave their head, they will shave their balls, they will. Some people have no idea of like how to behave in public and what stuff you should really just do in the privacy of your own home.
You know what puts me off a lot of the time, especially in public toilets, is that guys don't lift the toilet seat. Then you walk into a bathroom and then there's piss all over the toilet seat, and you're like,
oh my God.
What the heck?
Oh my God.
Like,
what is wrong with people?
What the heck?
But like,
yeah.
What, were you raised by wolves that you don't know how to do this stuff?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think my issue with people in general, they have no etiquette whatsoever. It's like someone who will make like a slice of bread and then they still leave the crumbs on the table. It's like, no, clean that up. Like, you were there, like just wipe and remove that. It's like, no, people don't do that. And then I worry about how's the state of your house? If this is what you're doing here, what do you do when you're at your home? Because it's worse. Because you're comfortable.
Well,
it's always worse.
Congo Chris says, if I spend more than 4 hours at your house, I will be dropping the kids off at the pool. So what, you have to shit you have to shit every 4 hours, Chris? That's kind of a lot. I'm wondering if you've got a very healthy digestive system. Vincent says, I do like to take a dump in anyone's house whenever I feel comfortable. I did it once. Well, I was there for only 5 minutes. I don't see anything wrong, gross or not. Well, don't expect an invite from me anytime soon, Vincent. That's pretty horrible. David says, you wouldn't walk into your friend's house and take a bath unless you were sick. Same with taking a shit. Yeah. That's a good analogy. I like that. The German swallows etiquette in the sauna. What? Just like that should be a trunk out on display. No, man. Okay, so I think Tracy's talking about how like German people just have no issues with nudity. And that is true. Germans, they just let it all hang out the whole time. The Germans have no shame about nudity. Dogoza says, a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in months came through to my place acting like he wanted to catch up. Kanti was just in my neighborhood and suddenly needed to take a shit. That's not right.
There we go.
Wait, so what was the chat? Hi, Simphiwe. How are you? Are you good? It's been 3 months. Can I use your bathroom real quick? And then they in there for like 500 years. It was great seeing you, Simphiwe. I really need to dash. We should do this again. Was that how it went? Like, like did it happen like that? Because I would be so mad. I'd be like, Chief, where are you going?
My question is, my question is, are they still your friend? To be honest, because if a visit like that happens, that person, are they still your friend? Should they remain your friend? Because
you know my answer. They're not my friend anymore. That's not on. I got to say, this is another subject. Which, I mean, while we're on this, we may as well just go there. Like these people who take a long time when they're in the loo. I've never understood that. I want to get in and out of there as quickly as possible. I don't want to sit around. Some people take a book into there with them. Some people sit there with their phone and they'll like scroll through Instagram because they're busy with something, right? They'll be sitting there. I mean, Donald Trump, didn't he famously used to tweet from the loo? Like he'd be taking a shit at like 3 a.m. and he'd be tweeting the whole world from his lavatory. That's not necessary. You get in there, you get out, you make it quick. There's no need to spend a whole lot of time. Am I right?
I guess.
Well, it depends. I enjoy checking up on people's lives. I enjoy my occasional TikTok session in the bathroom.
Oh, dude, it's so bad.
Makes
it's so
time go by.
unhygienic too. Ugh. Zach says, I've had to deal with a stubborn turd after people left. Shit didn't want to break even after a few flushes. Oh my God. That is so revolting. That is disgusting.
A floaty.
Oh, wow.
Oh
That is
my
so
God.
bad.
That's even more embarrassing when you're trying to get rid of the evidence and the evidence is like, no.
Nico says a friend of mine
5 minutes.
A friend of mine once dropped a baobab in our toilet that wouldn't flush until the next day. Oh, wow. That is horrific. Jesus.
Guys, no. Oh, no. Yeah, there
Lovely Lady Lee says, can we please bring the stool expert back in to teach us how to time the shits? Yeah. We had a woman who came in on the show one morning, and she explained to us how many times a day you should be doing, how many times a week you should be evacuating your bowels. She was very interesting on the topic of, whether to tell if they're healthy or not. She was a real expert in stools. Yeah, there's a business in this.
You're actually supposed to look at it afterwards.
Obviously, you guys, according to Suicide, haven't watched Moruti wa Totsi. It will give you a lesson about not dropping your nuggets everywhere. My God. Oh, you see, we've started a conversation now.
This was never ending. Oh my God.
People are hurt. People are actually hurt. They're touched by what their so-called friends have left behind in the toilets. That's what's happening.
Yeah. And rightly so. Some people are very, very offended by this.
I actually saw a comment earlier and I forgot to touch on it. I think Tracy said that, like, what's worse is when a plumber or an electrician comes to your house and then first thing they do is they take a dump. Like, I've had that. And it was kind of awkward. The plumber came by. First thing he asked was for the bathroom. I'm like, okay, there's the bathroom. And then he took a good 15 to 20 minutes in there. And I'm like, well, this is awkward.
I mean, at least if he's a plumber, if he's a plumber and something goes wrong, he can fix it. And frankly, those people don't have an office, right? Their office is their car, and they're always traveling around, and they're going from house A to house B to house C. I reckon there's a good argument for them to be allowed to use the loo, as opposed to somebody who's in an office. If you work in an office all day and then you go straight from the office to a friend's house and take a massive dump in the friend's house, that's not right. You should have shat at the office.
Yeah. Would you allow them to take a dump in your guest bathroom though, then, Gareth?
Oh God, no. Please.
Because technically they're a guest,
Well, technically, the plumber who takes a shit in your house, the plumber's really just testing the pipes that he's going to fix in your house. So what do you expect? Yeah. What, you want the electrician to fix the lights, but you don't want him to switch them on? What, are you joking?
Wow. This conversation's levels. It's on another level.
Well, you knew we would go this way. You knew it would end up being filthy and dirty and lavatorial. I found out just now that two of my friends are going on holiday for a month to Spain.
Oh, nice.
How nice is that? Isn't that nice?
Oh, wow.
Aren't you a bit jealous
That's
of that?
amazing.
I'm super, super jealous of that.
A whole month.
I would love to go to
A whole month. A whole month, Felicia.
What do your friends do for a living?
Jesus.
What do they do for a living? Like a whole month?
They do weddings and they do events and they do all of that stuff. I mean, listen, 2 years ago, they were wondering if they were going to make it through the month, let alone if their business was going to still be there. Now they're back to making money, which is great. All right. So this is an interesting thing. So you two are both Simphiwe. What is the story behind your name? Like, how did your parents decide Simphiwe, and have they ever told you? Or was it just something that you just accepted and you never asked questions about?
Simphiwe, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first, Simphiwe. I actually do know the backstory behind my name, which was quite interesting. So when my parents were still together, they had my sister, and she's 8 years older than me. And in that time, they wanted to have a second kid. And they were actually battling to conceive. And in the 8 years, they had a miscarriage. And then boom shaka boom, she was pregnant with me. And the first funny part of the story is that the doctor was like, oh, this is a boy. This is definitely a boy. And they kind of got like a whole lot of boy stuff and boy toys and whatever. And then the day of, delivery, boom shaka boom, guess who came out? Me.
You did.
And I am not a boy whatsoever. And they called me Simphiwe as I was a gift to them of the 8 years of struggling to conceive. So that's the story behind my name.
That's beautiful. I like to hear these things. What about your story, Petros?
So in my family, the grandparents normally give the name. So my grandmother gave me my name, and similar to Simphiwe, like I am a gift to my family. So that's how I look at it. That's what they told me. Like, yeah, we were given a gift, the first son in the family, and that's what happened. My grandmother named me Simphiwe. So
it must be pretty shitty to be called Simphiwe and then you aren't a gift. You're just a burden.
We're gonna live up to our names, eh? Yes.
Yeah, they're reminded every day. No, this person is not a gift. This person is a fucking burden, and we called them Simphiwe.
That would be wild, eh? Yes. I think though, like over the years, in my teenage years, I felt like my parents thought I was a burden because those were wild years, eh? Yes.
I think
we all have those phases. I had to get that out of my system,
I love this. Congo Chris has, and not just him, but also Ruv says, both Simphiwes were mixed up at birth by their parents in the hospital. It was the first ever recorded SIM swap. Beautiful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And someone says SIM card 1 and SIM card 2 dual SIM. That's also very clever. People are smart, man. People are really smart.
Yeah.
Simphiwe and Tetwa, what keeps going? Your lights keep going on and off. Is that happening in the studio right now?
Yes, that is what's currently happening at the studios of Cliff Central. And I don't know what this is now. I don't know what we're calling that because it's just going on and then it goes off. And
it's level 26. That's the last level. There's no more after that. After that, everything just blows up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. So
Gareth,
Simphiwe means a gift. And
yes.
you both, and it's a totally, it can be a male or a female name, right? There are a lot of names like that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just a lot of people assume that Simphiwe is a guy. So when I introduce myself by email, a lot of people just always assume that it is a him, a he, and then I'm like, "Hi, how are you?"
Do you get people? You get people who call you Simphiwe, which is a different word, a different name, complete Simphiwe, or do you get people who call you Sipo or something like Sipo Sihle or something like that? Because there are a whole bunch of derivations that if people aren't paying attention, they get it wrong. Like Simphiwe is a pretty well-known name. I mean, I don't know anybody in South Africa who's never encountered a Simphiwe, but are people often confused? Do they spell it wrong? And what's the most regular screw up that they make with your name?
Yes, definitely. It's Simphiwe. It's a Simphiwe with an H, not without the H. They always seem to take out the H, and then it always feels like it sounds like Simphiwe. Like that hacks me. That hacks me. Another thing that people tend to do on my side is they always mix up my name and my surname. So they think that Petros is my name, but it's actually my surname. Like, my
Petros
goodness.
Simphiwe,
Yeah.
that does not make sense.
Yeah, right? Like,
No,
yeah, see.
So,
it's
Mr.
probably
Simphiwe, how are
because-
you doing today?
it's probably because like the name Petras, there are a lot of Petrases running around, like the Afrikaans name Petrus, and I think a lot of guys, their parents called them Petrus or Petros, and then someone thinks that that's your name, so that's probably where it comes from.
Yeah. I think in the Greek, Petros means Peter or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It is hilarious to hear people about like how they got their names. My favorite names are the ones from Zimbabwe, because there are people who have just the most brilliant names from Zimbabwe. I mean, I remember meeting someone once who was called Agreement, and I was like, sure, okay. You can only imagine what their parents did for them to be named Agreement.
I am the worst kind of, like, when it comes to people and names, especially waiters. I always ask, "Hi, what's your name?" And they tell me. And if it's a weird name, I burst out laughing. Like, I don't wait 2 seconds.
Shame,
I'm
Simphiwe,
like,
that's horrible.
what? You said your name
Wow.
is Agreement. I'm that child. Like, and it's not going anywhere, guys. I'm telling you now. I'm definitely that child that makes fun of people's names. Like, I was that child
Sis.
growing up, and I'm still that child
It's
today.
horrible.
And I'm just like, why would your parents name you that? Like, Agreement.
Agreement.
And it's wild, eh? It's wild, eh? There's all sorts of names. I always want to find the story behind that. Like, why did they call you Agreement? Like, just what's the story behind that? Or talent, or faithful. Like what did you do?
Yeah, faithful,
like
faithful,
how,
justice, innocent, all of those kinds of names.
Yeah.
But you know what? Those are sometimes not the people's actual birth names. It's just an English word that they prefer to be known by, so that people don't mispronounce their actual name. I mean, that's a whole different story, like people's in inverted commas, they call them their slave name or whatever, which is so derogatory. But you know what I mean? Like, that's what people do, and a lot of people whose names are very difficult to pronounce or to spell, they just eventually go, all right, just call me John or whatever, because it's just easier for them.
But
I get that.
John. Agreement. Yo, guys. It's just weird. It's just weird. It's like me meeting Apple. Like, there's a whole human out there called Apple. Like, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I can't take you serious for the first 5 seconds. Like, I need to get it out my system before we can have a conversation. Like, how you doing, Apple? You good?
Dear Linda
Yeah.
says that she met someone called Disgrace.
Imagine. Oh my
That's
gosh.
a terrible name. Disgrace. Excuse me, Disgrace. Would you mind just
Oh, that is sad. Oh man.
It's a shocking
man.
name. My God. That's
Yes.
awful.
That's the best one.
Yo.
Oh man.
Oh no. That's
See, now
Yo.
you've started this whole discussion around names. I've mentioned before on the show that I keep a list of really, really shit Afrikaans names, because some of those are just totally made up. They're like smushed 2 names together, and you end up with these really terrible, terrible names that people have. And then inevitably they end up on like an estate agent's signboard, and then you're like, what? That's someone's name? There's some bad ones here.
yeah.
Here's a
a
good one.
disgrace.
Inga says, I worked with someone called Memory, Perseverance, and my favorite one, Pushmore.
Push more. Push more is a favorite, clearly. Yo. Oh my
That's
gosh.
funny.
Oh,
That's so
man.
great. All right. Let's
Imagine
not go down
working
this
like
road.
a team with
we'll be
him.
busy all
Wow.
morning.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. Let me quickly tell you, this is quite important. We've got a new episode of Beyond Madness this week. The loss of a loved one, a friend, or even a colleague is never easy. What if the loss was a decision taken by the person in question to end their own life with their own hand? Now, this is amazing because it's something that is so controversial. It's a philosophical question they've debated since the dawn of time. Human beings, there's so many complicated discussions that could happen around this, and we need to speak to the experts in psychiatry when it comes to this stuff, because every one of those deaths, the assisted suicides, as people call them, the living will discussion, as some people have had and some people refuse to have. These are just amazing, amazing conversations. And we really need to have them at a very high level. So every one of these deaths leaves an estimated 6 or more suicide survivors, people who've lost someone that they care about deeply, and who are left with their grief and struggle to understand why it happened. So this week, you've got to listen to Beyond Madness, the trauma of loss. And that is with Professor Christopher Paul Szabo, who is terrific. I had such a long conversation with him about this and a bunch of other subjects just the other day in the office. You get to hear what Prof. Szabo thinks about all of these things and what his amazing guests have to say about these things today, in proud association with Adcock Ingram OTC, the sponsors of Brave. You don't want to miss Beyond Madness. Take a listen to it today. And while we're on that,
might I add about Beyond Madness? Prof actually gets emotional in this episode. So towards the end of the episode, he actually kind of lets down a tear or two, and you can actually hear it. So, I think everyone should give that a listen, because he was moved, and you can hear the fact that he was moved.
That's amazing. I'm glad you threw that in there, because we often think that psychiatrists and psychologists are these people who just never show their own emotion. They only let you speak and cry and tantrum and all the other stuff. But here we go. Here's Professor Szabo apparently getting emotional in this episode. It's worth a listen. I mean, that's just one of the reasons it's worth a listen. The other thing that I'd like to remind you of is we've got this brilliant new series with Investec, which you've got to take a listen to. I mentioned it yesterday briefly, but it is absolutely fascinating. It's all about sustainability. We've got incredible guests there. I'm actually going to play a piece of the interview of the first episode for you in a couple of days' time, just so you can hear it, because it's not like any other series we've put together, and it's worth a listen. Go and take a look at it. It's on the Cliff Central app, or on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Go and take a listen to it. It's really, really good stuff. And I'm very proud of the things that we're doing that have nothing to do with this show, and that are going ahead with really, really smart people doing amazing interviews, producing incredible content. And I'd love you to go and listen to it. Please go and take a listen ASAP. All right. So a couple of people still talking about the names, and I can't ignore these. Stone Philosopher says, imagine Pushmore in bed.
That's the first thing I thought. I didn't want to be that guy, but that's the first thing I thought.
Oh my God, that's great. I knew a guy, says Zach, called Komane. No, sorry, Komane, which means explosive in Sesotho. That's great.
Sure.
Zach says he had an aunt called Matlakala. What does that mean?
Shit. Basically.
Oh, really?
That's what it means.
Matlakala.
Yes.
Really? Okay, so we've now come full circle. We started off at 7 o'clock talking about shitting in people's houses. Now we've come full circle. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Oh man.
All right. So apparently there's quite a lot to talk about here. The facts that you have in your mind, the things that you bring up sometimes in a discussion, and people go, how the hell and why do you know that? Like, for example, that thing that Simphiwe brought up this morning about, or I think I brought it up, but it's something that she mentioned to me, like that your IQ drops when you're stressed. Like that's an interesting thing to drop into conversation when you've got people around, or you're visiting somebody, or even in the office. Like you walk up and you say to someone, hey, did you know that when you're stressed, your IQ can drop by 13%? People are like, wow, how did you know that? Where did you discover that? There are always these funny little facts that people know that make them really interesting. And sometimes you keep a few of these in your mind. You keep a few of them in your memory banks because it makes you sound like you're really, really smart. So what do you think of this? I mean, is there stuff that you produce when you're talking to other people? Interesting facts, crazy facts, weird, wonderful things that you know that nobody else does. Do you use this as like a great conversation starter? And what is your go-to fact that you produce for people?
Okay, so I'm married to a dentist. And one fact that I know that's always fascinates me. Did you know that flossing reduces approximately 64% of bad breath, like from the outset? If you floss
What?
every day, your bad breath improves by 64%. Like
Oh
you
wow.
don't have bad breath. Yeah, like so
So
basically your bad breath comes from all the stuff that's stuck in
the
between your
shit between
teeth.
your teeth.
Yeah.
Sis.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Yeah.
important to floss. Okay, you know what? That's a good fact. And not only is that a good fact, but that is a useful fact, because then those motherfuckers who you're talking to have bad breath will go and sort out their bad breath by flossing.
Yeah.
That's a good
I
one.
like that.
That's like,
Yeah, that's very nice.
well, I
Mine
just tend to
changes from
ask
time.
people.
I mean, what is
I
yours?
literally,
Go for it.
no, I ask people, I'm like, oh, share a random fun fact that you know. And then everyone's like, well, did you know that, like, and it's like you listen to everybody kind of share their facts. I'm like, oh, that's great. I actually don't have one, but I like asking people to share to share random fun facts.
Do you know
I
any,
tend
like,
to.
what are the best ones that you've heard?
Ooh, let me think. I think it'll have to be like music related. So I think the one that stood out the most for me was about Mac Miller's album Circles. That the first
Mhm.
track in terms of keys starts off with like a opening key, and then the last track, the last note of it is kind of like the last. Well, it's a closing key. So the album in itself is a full circle.
Oh
So that was
wow.
Okay.
a cool one that
That's why
I
it's
heard.
called
I was like,
circles.
Shucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are lots of facts about movies and about music that people like to produce, and there's obviously, these they're books that are published where you can look through a book and you find some interesting fact about something. I mean, Congo Chris says Churchill was a nudist who liked to take air baths. I don't know if any of these are true. I suspect is just completely made up bullshit. It's like anybody who pulls a quote out of the air. They're like, Winston Churchill once said. Winston Churchill's the guy. If he said everything that people quote him as saying, he would never stop talking for like 300 years. But anyway, I mean, he gets the credit for all the good quotes. Traveling Ninja Turtle says, I produce movie quotes or stand-up comedy jokes that apply to a situation. It's always a winner.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I mean, yeah, stand-up comedians are a mine of useful information and also hilariously stupid thoughts, which you can then produce, and other people think it's you, and then you sound really smart.
Yeah. No,
How do they?
definitely.
How do
Movie
they?
quotes.
This is a
Movie
good
quotes is
question.
good.
Carl wants to know, and I think this is a good question. How do they measure breath smelliness? 64%. What a load of matlaka.
I wish I knew. All I know is that it was a University of Pretoria study that they conducted, and how they measure the intensity of bad breath versus the freshness. I have
God.
no
Imagine
clue.
being in that. Imagine being in that research group. You have to go into a
Yeah, I
laboratory and
know.
you measure the smelliness of other people's breath. What a horrible job.
Yeah.
and also you
Yeah,
have
I
to put
know.
like a percentage. You're like, oh, but Gareth, that's 84% horrible breath. Simphiwe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. That's about 16%.
God. Here's an
Yeah.
interesting.
I couldn't
here's an
do it.
interesting fact from MM. Did you know that Dutch bathroom doors open outwards? That is so that if anyone falls in the bathroom, they're not blocking the doorway. Huh.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
But now,
so
what
this is
happens if
interesting.
somebody? What? Okay, I hear that. Like, if somebody falls, then the doorway is not blocked. But what if somebody, like, locks themselves in? Like, what happens then?
Well, I mean,
Like,
it's just the direction the door opens. You're still
so now
gonna
you have
have
to
to
pull
break
the
the
door
door
out.
down. No,
Yeah.
yeah, but no matter which way it opens, you're still gonna have to break it down if they lock themselves in and they can't get out. But at least if they pass out, you won't have to push it up against them, is the point. That's quite clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
I mean,
good
these are the facts that we were talking about. So sometimes you say these things and someone will go, ooh, I mean, look at how we're now debating the way that a door should open. Have you noticed that in KZN, a lot of the older houses have a drain in the floor of the bathroom? So apparently there was a rule that was made by, I don't know, the early architects or engineers or something, that the bathroom floor not just the bath and the shower and the basin, but the floor of the bathroom in those houses used to have a drain in them in case like you didn't turn off the taps in your bath or whatever. You wouldn't flood your whole house, which is pretty interesting. Just hearing that thought about the door that opens outwards in the toilet. That's quite a clever idea. I reckon we should probably do that in all bathrooms everywhere. Like your bathroom itself should have a drain in it.
That's a good one.
Sense,
I mean, it sounds like such a stupid little thing, but I wonder how many houses would be saved from big insurance claims and floods and all that kind of shit if they just had a floor drain in the bathroom. It makes sense. Even in the kitchen, maybe. That could be quite a good idea.
Gareth,
it saves a lot of...
you see, that's the kind of shit. Now, you see, you start down this road and then someone produces another fact, and then suddenly that fact leads you to another conversation, and before you know it, you're solving problems. Here's something interesting from Kawe. Kawe says, you cannot sprint with a hard-on.
Really? Damn. I didn't know that.
Oh my God, that's funny. Okay.
What? Wait.
Yeah. Now we have to test that. We have to test that theory. Next time you wake up in the morning with some excitement, like start doing a 100-meter sprint. All right.
That is a fact of note, eh?
Here's a wild fact. Steve says it is easier to drain the blood when cutting up your victims. I suppose. You see, I'm trying to figure that out. Maybe when you cut up your victims, it's easier to cut them up if you've drained their blood.
Wait, why are we cutting up victims? That sounds so dark. That sounds like so. Hey, whoa! Like maybe you guys didn't see that word. I did. Victims.
Someone send the police to Steve's house immediately because that guy is not.
Check all the fridges.
Yeah, exactly. So apparently they also have drains. Matthew says there are drains in the kitchen and the bathrooms of all houses in the Middle East. And Vincent says even here in Perth, we have a drain in the bathroom. It's normal, new and old houses. See, so I wasn't talking nonsense. Some places that's the rule. Cool. All right. Those KZN floor drains helped fuck all for a few weeks ago. Containers floating on the highway, if only that unblocked their floor drains. Yeah, okay, good point with the floods. Shame. KZN still getting over that. I knew a lady once, says Zach, whose mum tried to hook us up. She was such a looker, smart and interesting. The problem was her halitosis. Again, the bad breath. If she just flossed, you wouldn't have had that problem, Zach.
Yeah.
I wonder. It's called a wet room, apparently, when you have a drain in the floor. That's what it's called. Okay.
Oh, okay. Right. That's an interesting fact, yeah.
So you see, these are things. These are things we wouldn't have known if we hadn't started this discussion this morning. I do like people who have interesting facts, but I hate people who that's their only game. They suddenly you're busy talking about, let's say, for example, someone's just gone through a breakup and you're busy talking to your friend. Oh yeah, it was a really hard relationship, but you're trying to commiserate with them, and some guy pops up out of nowhere and goes like, "Did you know that 25% of people in this profession have only 1 foot?" You're like, what are you talking about? We're busy having a conversation about something, and it seems to distract people from like actually having really useful, meaningful conversations. They just want to.
That's like a lack. That's like a lack of emotional intelligence, personally, from my viewpoint. Like imagine just throwing out a fact, and people are going through something really deep, Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's like people don't know how to read the room, and then everything has to be about them. So if you and I are talking and they're not getting their attention, and they have to just say something that kind of brings the spotlight onto them, and you're like, dude, but I was having a conversation. Like, this is not about you right now. We're not like, please just wait 5 minutes. And they're like, nope, I need to share this. And you're like, hello. Oh, that grains. Oh, that's just those people.
Well, Congo Chris says, my fun facts are more interesting than your failed relationship. I apologize for nothing. Oh my God.
Oh
That
my
is
gosh, you're that person that we kick out. Like, you know what? Thank you. You can
Mhm.
go now. Like
Mhm.
that fun fact. See your way out. That's what it sounds like. That's what I'd do.
Yes, that's wild. Yeah.
There's still, here's an interesting one from Zach again. Mexican cartels built special rooms with drains in the floor for torture and murder. Makes it easy to clean up after the mess. God, that is depressing and scary. Huh?
Hectic. Yeah, that's hectic. Wow.
If that's true,
And
again,
yeah, no, that's quite hectic. I just remember, like, a fun fact I always know is, like, with Pablo Escobar, he used to, like, bury his money in the Amazon forest because he just had that much money, you know? Like, so he had to
and
find places in the forest.
they also had such a problem. Apparently, this is another like Pablo Escobar story, but they had so much money stored in so many places that their biggest problem was the rats eating the cash, like actually
Yeah.
eating the paper that the money was made of. So their biggest issue was to find a way to kill the rats that were eating the cash because they were destroying that much money
Shucks.
every single day.
Imagine having that much money.
Problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're worried about rats. No, you're not worried about
Yeah.
paying bills or anything. You're like, oh, the rats are gonna get to it. Damn it. Oh, what do we do?
I'm okay with having problems like that, eh? That's a nice problem to have. You're right. Those are nice life problems.
I always say I
So
rather
here's an
cry in a
interesting one.
Bentley.
Matthew says, here's a fun fact. Apparently, drinking room temperature water is better for your thirst than ice cold water.
Oh, wow.
If that's
That's
true, that's
interesting.
pretty wild. I never thought about that because I do like cold water. Like to me, my fridge is 90% bottles of water because when I wake up in the morning, I want to drink water and it must be cold. It must be from the fridge in summer, especially, but even in winter, I like the water to be cold. It's one of the reasons to have a fridge, for God's sake. According to Matthew, though, it doesn't sort your thirst out as well as room temperature water. That I did
That's
not.
That's
interesting.
wild.
That's very interesting. But I do know.
I wonder
water
why that
in
is, though.
Summer. Yeah, but water in
No
summer
idea.
slaps differently. There's nothing that will quench your thirst like just getting a good cold bottle of water like that. Oof.
Absolutely. That's it's all I drink when I'm at home during the week, especially. It's just water. In fact, I sometimes wonder if I'm going to drown. I drink so much of this stuff. Apparently, tea is also very good for dealing with your thirst. And sometimes they say something like tea without sugar and milk and all that stuff in it can sort out a thirst better than water. But it could be an old wives' tale. I don't know. Here's another one from Nico. He says, has anybody realized that you cannot yawn or sneeze while you're in your sleep? You have to be awake to yawn or sneeze.
That's true, though.
I don't know about that
Is
because
that-
you're sleeping, so you don't know what your body's doing. That's my only thing.
Yeah, and I mean, you can fart while you're asleep, right?
Yes. And people are snoring whilst they sleep. So I'm not sure unless somebody tells you that, hey, dude, you tried. Nah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I don't know.
Let's just say that unless you're being observed 24/7 by one of these sleep laboratories, you don't know what's going on during your sleep. You can't tell. I know people who swear that they don't snore, and yet their partner has said that they snore like a mofo.
Oh, they're like, I don't sleepwalk. And you're like, here's the footage, girl. We saw you.
Yeah.
You walked out of your bed. You were eating the snacks.
Right.
This is you right here, man. Like
Correct.
people,
Absolutely.
when you're sleeping. It's so
here's another
interesting.
it could be an old wives' tale, could be a fact, but Steve says 1 full glass of water last thing at night and 1 first thing in the morning of waking up apparently prevents heart attacks. Really? Don't know about that. Being woken up by your own fart is hilarious, says Nico. Yes.
Hilarious and embarrassing. Imagine.
You started the Pablo Escobar stuff. So Jared says a fun fact: Pablo Escobar spent $2,500 a month on rubber bands to hold his money together. He's also the reason that there are wild hippos in Cuba. In Cuba or in Colombia? I'm pretty sure it's Colombia. Anyway,
I think it's
it doesn't
Colombia.
matter, but
I think it's Colombia.
yeah, but that's right. Carl says, my daughter yawns in her sleep all the time. Who came up with that bullshit? Yeah, exactly. You don't know. My fun fact, he says, is that the light that you're seeing from a star is 3 years old. It could be way older than that. The light you see from some stars is thousands of years old. Really, there are stars that are still, that have gone out already, that have died out, that are still sending us light, because that light is still on its way here from millions of light years away. It's pretty. That's an insane thing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's like a look at the skies.
Yeah, it's amazing. When my eldest was a baby, this was overheard on the baby monitor. He ripped a machine gun fart, followed by the best giggles. He was about 6 months old at the time. A machine gun fart. That's a machine gun fart. Very descriptive, right? You can hear that.
Yeah.
And then they giggle afterwards. Like, my work was so great.
Yeah. Corona's boring is also bringing us a full circle this morning. We started the show by complaining about Eskom. If only Eskom was a star, then we'd still have light coming from it. Says Corona's boring. Spot on. So that's so right.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Oh man.
Apparently, so those hippos that Pablo Escobar introduced to Colombia, apparently they're called the drug hippos. They're a massive ecological problem in the Colombian wetlands, and the army has been hunting them for years. Huh. See?
What?
Fun facts, people. See what we've started here with these fun facts?
Yeah.
Tell you what,
And they don't end.
we'll never run out of things to talk about with this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Sure.
That is
sometimes
interesting.
You sometimes meet people who aren't even expert in a certain field, but they know a huge amount about it because they just read lots. And then they pop up with facts, and you could just listen to them all day. It's not really a conversation, but you just want to hear what they have to say about it. They've read these amazing books about. In my case, it's just I love history, right? So if I sit down next to somebody and they're busy talking about history, you got my attention, and I will never turn away, get bored, say, excuse me, can I talk to someone else? Make an excuse to go to the bathroom or whatever. You got my full attention when you start down that path. Nico says, guys, can we just take a moment to thank that little sensor that stops us from shitting ourselves when you think it's a fart? Yeah, I mean, what's that called? And that's a sense. You know how you think, I mean, it sometimes is faulty. It sometimes doesn't work properly. But sometimes you think you're going to fart and then you're like, whoa, hold on a minute. Stop right there. Everybody stop dead in your tracks. This is not going to be a fart.
Yeah.
That's a like, you say you've got 5 senses: smell, sight, touch, taste, and feel. No, hang on. Smell, sight,
I think
touch. What have I left out? Taste,
hearing,
and
hearing.
Thank you. Jeez, it's our business, but there we go. All right, so those are your 5 senses, but they actually say you've got like 9 senses, because, for example, there are certain, like you get that feeling of hot and cold. That's not really touch, is it? But you can feel heat and cold. And maybe one of them is also that sense that you might shit yourself instead of fart. We should list that in those. It's very important, that one. Hugely important. I like that.
Yeah.
Today's conversation, says Lady Lee, are epic. Well, I hope so. Here's an interesting one. Jared says, did you know that the Australian Army lost a war to a bunch of emus? Emus are these huge, big, like ostrich-like birds. They sent an army to eradicate a huge population of them, and the army failed. They were beaten by the emus. That's pretty incredible. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Stories for days.
Matthew
My
says,
goodness.
See, I don't know whether these are facts or whether these are just bullshit stories, but Matthew says the earth was flat before it was round. I don't know about that. Doesn't make sense.
I don't know about that.
No.
That sounds like some bullshit. And we would like some evidence of that, please, Matthew. Otherwise, we're just going to dismiss you from the comments. We'll block you for the day. I've done that a couple of times by mistake and for real.
You know, you were talking about like how you can listen to history and not get bored of it. I think for me, it has to do with a lot of content creation side and like the tech side of content creation, like from the cameras used to even like just some of the apps and software used and how like you know you can use Lightroom to edit your pictures, but you can also use Canva, and then breaking down the hacks of that. I could listen to that all day every day. Like I'm that person who's like, oh, tell me more about iOS. Oh, okay, cool. That's a new feature. Oh, tell me more about like how do I take this in cinematic?
Do you watch those channels where they're these experts with like iPhone and they show you some hacks that you can use on iPhone that will save you space or that'll make your iPhone work faster, or they show you how some app has a feature that you didn't know about? I love those things. I could watch those all day, every day.
There's quite a few channels, just tech channels that I watch. And my favorite one has to be Peter McKinnon. He always like comes in, he's like, what's up, guys? I'm Peter McKinnon, and today we're going to talk about whatever he talks about. And he has like this energy, and he explains photography and videography really, really well. And it's like, even like today we're going to do 2 minutes of a tutorial of how to take sharper pictures with your iPhone. This is what you do. Get a tripod. This is what you don't do. And I love things like that. Like for me, I can never get bored of watching video. I could watch an hour-long video on how to make a better video. Like that's me.
But those are really cool because they help you develop and be better. You know, I think it's that intrinsic desire to learn, you know, and learn more in life. That's what I appreciate about those videos, because those how-to guides help you get better, you know?
Well, that's also what's nice about like sharing fun facts that you discover. And if you think about it, like, I don't know if you guys ever bought Chappies, but the Chappies used to have these interesting facts inside the Chappies wrapper. And I always wonder how much of what, you know, people know comes from stuff like that, because that used to be the place that we got our information before the internet came along. Lovely Lady Lee says, my favorite subject that you've had on your show is how to make good tea. Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed with, you know, how to make the best coffee, how to make the best tea, because why do you want to have a shitty cup of tea in your life? And we've discussed this and what people's different tastes are. Just out of pure like curiosity, for the last 3 days, I'm only having black coffee with no sugar, no milk, obviously. And I'm trying that out for a few days because I used to have coffee. It's difficult, but I'm trying to train my body out of having sugar. I don't want to be so fat anymore. So I'm doing what I can. It's really tough, but I'm getting into it. So, you know, I'll report back after 2 weeks. That's how long it's going to take me to get used to it, I suppose.
Are you like one of those people that can go cold turkey, or is it like a slow progression of, okay, like let me first start with the tea and then do something else, and then before you know it, you're in a full healthy routine, or you just boom shaka boom?
I just have to do it. Yeah, I have to go straight for it, because if I give myself any leeway at all, I'll talk myself out of doing something. So, for example, this dropping sugar and milk out of the coffee it's going to be a thing for 2 weeks, and I'm going to see if I can do it. And if I really, really hate it, then after 2 weeks, I'll go back. But if I can train myself to enjoy the actual coffee, like you enjoy tea, that stuff makes a difference. And you can prove to yourself that you can do something. I like to do that month where you are completely sober every now and then, where I don't drink at all for a whole month. And I haven't done it for probably about 3 years, but I know I can. Like I switch on the switches and I switch off other switches, and then I just don't want to drink. I can do that easily. Even on a night out, That's I've been able to do it where everybody else is drinking, someone offers you a drink and you're like, not tonight. I can do that. I don't think it's a superpower. I just think I'm very good at convincing myself that I need to do something or I don't.
Yeah, I think you've made up your mind and you understand why you do what you do, and that's powerful. You know, it's not a superpower; it's just self-control. And I think we all just need to work on it at the end of the day, because it's important. Because we tend to get influenced to do things that we know we don't want to do, but we end up doing. You know, and you just got to make the choice and the decision. Yeah.
Guys, we're out of time. That's all we've got for you for this morning. We could carry on talking all morning. I know Simphiwe and Simphiwe, the Simphiwe and Simphiwe show, would be able to go on for hours and hours with all of the interesting facts. But I'm going to wrap it up with this one from Congo Chris. Uranus is big enough to fit 37 Earths in. 38 if you really relax. All right, everybody.
That was a good one.
All right. Very nice.
Cheers,
Have an
guys.
excellent Wednesday, and we will see you tomorrow, 6 a.m. bright and early. Simphiwe Petros, nice to see you, my friend. We'll catch up soon.
Good. Sweet, man. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, guys.